God doesn't need to swear to make his promise binding. No. So, continue. Thus, God, determined to show more abundantly to the heirs of promise the immutability of his counsel, confirmed it by an oath. God didn't need to swear to Abraham. The promise was enough because God, when God promises, he cannot lie. It will surely come to pass. But for Abraham, he had to confirm the promise with an oath, which made it very, very serious. Okay. So that made it very, very serious because God confirmed the promise with an oath. And so the apostle is saying, go to 18. He said that by two immutable things in which it is impossible for God to lie, we might have strong consolation who have fled for refuge to lay hold of the hope set before us. What are the two immutable things? Promise and oath. That when God promises, he cannot lie. It is impossible for God's promises to fail. And when God makes an oath, it is impossible. If there is any word after impossible, impossible for God's promise to fail. Because what he promises, they are sure. His promises, they bring us hope. And this hope is so alive that we can literally bank our whole lives on the hope. Abraham was shown a city that God said, I will give you. And that city was in a spirit. And Abraham saw that city, and Bible said he got to a place of hope. He was anticipating joyfully to the extent that it affected how he lived. So Hebrews 11 verse 13, he will say that they all died in faith. They didn't receive a physical promise. But he said, these all died in faith, not having received the promise, but having seen them afar off, were assured of them, embraced them, and confessed that they were strangers and pilgrims on the earth. The promises of God that he gave Abraham was not Isaac. You see, Isaac was a byproduct. Was not the land of Canaan. He didn't get Canaan. Even the burial place for Sarah he had to buy. That promise was a spiritual thing. He will look to a city, Hebrews 11 verse 10. Look to a city whose architect, for he waited for the city which had foundations, whose builder and maker is God. So they saw the city, the church, and they embraced that promise, and they began to walk as pilgrims on this earth. So that's the work of faith. So, but what is the promise of God? You see, the promise of God talks of things that God has determined in himself to do. His counsel. Those things will never fail. His counsel. What he has determined to do. He has sought counsel with himself and concluded on what he wants to do. He gives them as promise. It is something that God has ordained in his counsel. It cannot fail. Prophecies can fail. When I say prophecy, I'm talking about prophetic utterance. You see, because a prophecy about your life is God's desire, God's wish, and sometimes God's plan for your life. They can fail. Why can they fail? They can fail because they are not his eternal counsel. And it will take your cooperation for prophecy over your life to be fulfilled. That's why a prophet can speak over your life and tell you this and this, I see this and this and this in your life, and it may never come to pass. Because it will take your cooperation. You can literally stop prophecy from being fulfilled. You don't think so? When Eli told Hannah, go, may the Lord bless you. Don't you think Hannah could have stopped the prophecy? It was not by force to give birth. God was just telling her that this is what I desire for you. This is what I wish for you. Hannah can go back home and say, Elkanah, get out. And sit down there and say, I'm expecting the word of Eli to come to pass. It will never come to pass. But Mary, what God wanted to do in Mary's life went beyond Mary's personal destiny. It was a counsel of God from eternity. That one cannot fail. Whether she likes it or not, it cannot fail. That's why God also did everything to make sure that it wouldn't depend on Mary. Because that is what I want to do. And so sometimes, you see, the reason why, you see, you can receive beautiful prophecies and they can just pass through your fingers. Let's say you becoming rich, having money, or maybe becoming the president of Ghana. It's not a counsel of God. For your personal destiny, it may be God's desire for you. It may even be God's plan for you to arrive at his purpose. But you can arrive at God's purpose through the plans can fail. You can arrive at the purpose through several routes. That's why God is a God of many chances. That's why mercy is there. But if you fail his plans here, he will create another opportunity for you to fulfill the same purpose through another plan. It doesn't necessarily mean that you have to, by all means, go through this plan. It can fail because you were not diligent. It can fail because you didn't know what to do. You didn't cooperate. But when you come to yourself and you are ready to cooperate, God may take you through another route. I hope you know the difference now. So, no counsel of God will fail. But the desires of God, the expectations of God for your life. You see, God didn't ordain that, he didn't ordain that you will go to Pokuare. It wasn't part of his counsel. That's not part of God's purpose for your life. You go to Pokuare. From there to Lagos. From there to this. You will do science. You will do business. So people sometimes come and ask me, hey, am I not missing God's purpose for my life? Because the course they gave me, a prophet, somebody said a prophet told me that I'll be a businessman. But I didn't say you'll be a banker. But I didn't, the course they gave me, it's nothing like that. Am I not missing the purpose of God? I said, no, this one is a plan of God for your life. It's for you, your personal destiny. It's not a counsel of God. Even if it changes, you are going to arrive at the same place through a different route. It's not automatic that once they said this, it means that if it fails, then there's no hope for you. Those things can be repeated. But they can fail. Prophecies can fail. 1 Corinthians 13, verse 8. It says, whether there be prophecy, they can fail. Love never fails. But whether there are prophecies, they will fail. Whether there are tongues, they will cease. Whether there is knowledge, it will vanish away. So prophecies can fail. Can fail. The fact that you had a prophecy or a dream that said that you are going to live in another country does not mean that it cannot fail. So there are people who all their lives they are just waiting for prophecy to be fulfilled. Meanwhile, they have missed the steps they must take for the fulfillment. So they are just waiting. There are people, I have counseled several ladies who wouldn't even look at a guy because a prophet told them that your husband is a pastor. And they are still waiting for a pastor. This one that is coming, who is a good Christian, matured Christian, who may even become a pastor, that you like and you know that you can live with. You are still waiting because the prophet said, look, if the person is not a pastor, kick him. And you thought that was the counsel of God. That was the purpose of God for your life. No. It was God's wish, God's desire. And you have a part to play to make sure that thing happens. If it was God's counsel, it wouldn't be up to you. Sometimes there's an interplay of God's counsel and God's desire for your life. And you realize that when you get on God's counsel, you will see that his desire too will come to pass in your life. But let us not think that once you are given a prophecy, that's all. There's no work, there's nothing to be done. You are just waiting for the prophecy. No. It can fail. It can fail. 1 Timothy 1:18. What God wants to do, nobody can stop it. But God's desire for your life, you better attend to it. Otherwise, you can stop it. But that one is a desire. Beloved, I wish above all things that you prosper and be in good health. It's a desire. I wish above all things. I wish. It's a wish. But you know, believers who are not in good health, you know, who are not prospering. I wish above all things that you prosper and be in good health, even as your soul prospers. So if it was the counsel of God, then it will be established. Nothing can change it. But it is God's desire. So it needs your cooperation for it to manifest. He said, first the Timothy scripture. This charge I commit to you, son Timothy, according to the prophecies previously made concerning you, that by them you may wage the good warfare. You may fight the fight of faith. So you need to be a student of your own personal prophecies. Mark them. Know when they start coming to pass. Pray for wisdom concerning them. Know the steps to take. And don't think that if that thing fails, God has failed. No. It is not part of his counsel. It is just a wish for you. He loves you. And he desires the best for you. So if, let's say, that thing fails, don't say it is God who has failed. God will never fail. Haven't you seen the things that God determines to do, how he does them? How he can sometimes even in his own sovereignty suspend laws and push his policy through. The things he wants to do, his counsel. Look at how he cleared people just to make room for the Messiah. Nothing can stop that promise. The Messiah must come. He had to send them to exile, and then he had to bring them back in time. Because they were in exile. But he had to bring them back in time. Nobody could stop it. The devil couldn't stop it. Nobody could stop it. And if you stood in his way, he will clear you. He will not do that for the exams you are going to write. Not that he's a wicked God, though. But that exams you are going to write, he has good plans for you. I know the thoughts I think towards you. And yet, it doesn't depend on him alone, because it is not part of his counsel, his eternal counsel. So if you sit down there and you think God must bring it to pass because it is his will for my life, you will be lying. You must cooperate. Because he has shown you his desire. I want you to prosper.